I've got a little bit of an Elvis story. Okay, so I loved Elvis as a little kid. I had 45s when I was maybe like second, third grade or whatever. I was listening to Hound Dog on the RCA, the Heartbreak Hotel, Can't Help Falling in Love with You, all that stuff, okay? I loved Elvis. Had an Elvis poster in my room. This is as a little kid. And then I was 11 years old when he died, and I never got to see him live. My mom knew how much I loved him. So there was an Elvis impersonator that came through town, and his name was Terry Tiger. I still remember. I've got a picture. I've got an autographed 8x10 glossy of Terry Tiger. And so my mom bought tickets and took me to see Terry Tiger because it was the closest she could get to getting me to see Elvis. And so I was like, I don't know, 11, 12 years old. That was great. I loved it. And I still am an Elvis man. Every year for my birthday, for many, many, many years, my mom would always present me with something from Elvis, with Elvis plate, Elvis matchbooks, Elvis stamps, Elvis collectible glasses. I have all kinds of Elvis stuff. Just a huge collection of Elvis memorabilia. And I'm still an Elvis man. I love it. He's the king, always will be the king. The king didn't chase the charts chased him. Sometime in the spring of 1956, a young man from Tupelo, Mississippi, walked into a recording booth and changed everything. Not just music, everything. When Heartbreak Hotel hit #1 on Billboard's pop chart and held it for 7 weeks, radio programmers noticed. When I Want You, I Need You, I Love You followed it to the top, they paid attention. When Don't Be Cruel, Love Me Tender, All Shook Up, Jailhouse Rock, and hit after hit climbed and stayed, something unprecedented was happening. By the time it was over, Elvis Presley's 18 #1 singles had collectively spent 80 weeks at the very top of the Billboard American pop charts. 80 weeks. That's not a career highlight. That's a conquest. To understand what that number means, you have to understand the world it happened in. This was no Spotify algorithm pushing songs to curated playlists. There was no viral moment on TikTok to send a track to millions overnight. There were no streaming numbers, no passive plays counted while someone slept with their earbuds in. Records had to be purchased with cash at a store. Radio spins had to be earned song by song, market by market, DJ by DJ. Teenagers had to care enough to walk into a shop, flip through stacks of records, and hand over their allowance. And they did, over and over and over again. What makes this story even more remarkable is the sheer range of the timeline. The Elvis who sent shockwaves through America in 1956, the rockabilly rebel, the swiveling hips, the look that made parents nervous and teenagers certain he was singing directly to them, was a very different performer from the smooth balladeer of the early 60s, or the leather-clad comeback artist who electrified a television audience in 1968. He changed. Most artists who change lose their audience. Elvis changed and kept gaining new ones. Rockabilly firebrand, Hollywood leading man, gospel-soaked balladeer, arena-filling icon. Each version of Elvis was different enough to feel fresh, yet familiar enough to feel like home. He could break your heart with a whisper and shake a room with a growl, sometimes in the same song. Critics wrote him off more than once. When he went into the Army in 1958, some predicted his moment had passed. When he came back to film soundtracks through most of the 60s, others said he'd traded artistic integrity for easy money. When the British invasion arrived and the Beatles rewrote the rules, the conversation shifted. And then he walked onto a television stage in 1968 dressed in black leather and reminded the world exactly who had taught everyone else the lesson in the first place. And for 80 weeks, across one of the most transformative eras in music history, when rock and roll was still finding its language, when pop culture was still learning what it could become, one voice from Mississippi sat at the very top of it all. Not chasing the charts, not reacting to them, defining them. 80 weeks at #1 is a number you can measure. What it represents, the devotion, the adaptability, the sheer force of talent that refused to be temporary. That's something you can only feel. And millions of people across generations still do. Elvis's final #1 single, Suspicious Minds, in November of 1969, came 13 years after Heartbreak Hotel had started it all. 13 years at the top of an industry that chews through artists in months. The 80 weeks aren't just a statistic. The 80 weeks aren't just a statistic. Do you know how hard it is to say the word statistic? The 80 weeks are more than just a statistic. They're a window into something rarer than fame, sustained, evolving, unrelenting relevance. In a business defined by the next big thing, Elvis kept becoming the next big thing. Again and again, long after everyone assumed he was yesterday's news. There's a reason they called him the King. And not simply the artist or the star or the legend. King. Kings don't just arrive. They reign. You know, I've been an Elvis fan since I was born, probably. I was listening to little 45s when I was a little bitty kid of all the good Elvis stuff. The King. You know, even John Lennon loved the King.